100 birds. My birds actually looked like arrows. And then I can set various parameters of the model, such as how far they can see, how far they turn to align with their neighbors, and so on. And you see them start to move around. There's no leader. And this is just using that same Boyd's model. And very quickly, they begin to start to flock. And you can see that this isn't as fancy as the other model, but what these kinds of models do is allow us to do experiments. So for example, if I ask the question, here's a question I can ask. If I increase the number of birds or decrease, what happens? Does the group flocking behavior become stronger? That is, does it converge more quickly on larger flocks, or weaker? Does it converge more slowly? So here's a question. If I increase the number of birds, which one of these would happen? Would you see stronger flocking or weaker flocking? So let's say I start, I showed you with 500. Let's say I go up to 1,000 now. Am I going to see them converge faster or slower? Well, it's hard to know. And in fact, this problem is, we don't have good intuitions about complex systems like this. So here we saw that, by about, this ticks here, I don't know if you can see this, tells me how many time steps the model has gone for. So let's try this again. If I start at 500, and I'll ask how many ticks does it take till I start to see flocking behavior. That looks like about right. So it's on the order of 400. Of course, I'd do this more carefully if I was really... Okay, so now I have a much bigger population, and I see flocking behavior happen much faster. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. There's a couple of constraints that aren't mentioned. One is the birds fly in a pretty narrow height above the ground. They don't go up to 10,000 feet. They don't crash into the ground.
That's true.
So how was that incorporated into that model?
So that's a very good point. There's a lot of things that real birds, that you have to think about with real birds, that are not incorporated in this model. We don't incorporate that. And so every model, there's a famous saying that says all models are wrong, but some are useful. And by wrong, we mean that we don't take into account everything in the real world. Obviously, it wouldn't be a model if you did. And so that's, in fact, all of science is about figuring out what we need to actually look at without taking into account everything in the real world.